Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys. Hey, sis.
Hi, Charity.
So we have some really interesting questions today, Jessica, that I'm really excited to talk about. Do you want to go ahead and get us started with some of those questions?
Yes. So, Charity, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has the slogan, foster care as a support to families, not a substitute for parents. How does this relate to your experience? Or do you even agree with that?
Thank you for the last point. So, that's a very interesting question, and having experienced the foster care system and, still advocating and seeing, the children that are growing up in the system and the people that have exited, and also just, my background and experience in criminal justice reform, I would disagree with both of those, actually. I think, personally, that when we look at the foster care system, we tend to look at it as an isolated issue, when in fact, it's a negative side effect of a much larger issue. So when we look at our criminal justice system, which, negatively and disproportionately affects people of color and poor people, I don't think people factored in the fact that, children will be taken, from their families as a result of this, that there will be a lot of trauma and abuse as a result of, those negative effects of our current criminal justice system. And so as a result, it was never built to actually foster children and care for children. It was something that was, in my opinion, quickly put together to try to solve a problem that should have never had existed. So yes, as we look at the foster care system today, we do see changes within the system as, we move towards figuring out, okay, how do we make sure we have positive outcomes? And so I don't think that, it's definitely not to replace families. It's definitely not to support families, because support, but it's really a mechanism put in place to kind of keep children in a safe place, while their parents are unavailable. So I would love for it to move to a place where, it is there to help families and to protect families. So really understanding and defining, what does it mean to help families, that are not together? What does that mean? How do we define that? And, how do we make that truly work? But I'm curious to know what you think, because you're a social worker, you work, in the field. So I'm curious to you, and having experienced foster care yourself, what's your perspective on that?
So I think as a slogan, it's good. I think that the goal and our vision is to support families. I think that we're supposed to help connect families to services and bridge a gap. And in addition to the, when we think about the kids we're finding homes for, due to maybe their parents becoming incarcerated, or maybe they're struggling with some type of addiction or some other situation, there's a lot of kids that are also in need of permanent homes because their parents become ill. We have parents who die, who pass away, and we still need to find relatives or appropriate plans for those children as well. So a lot of children, or with our older children, the lack of supervision, a lot of our laws have changed to where parents can't parent the same. They can't discipline the same. So the kids, as for no fault of the parent, are not manageable. And because the parents cannot keep them safe, keep them off the street, keep them from using drugs and doing things, we take them in with the idea that we're going to be able to hopefully rehabilitate those kids and send them back home. So I think that supporting those parents, giving them the training, giving them tools besides spanking or whatever the traditional ways we have discipline, is important, because like I said, the laws have changed, but there's a lot of circumstances. And I think that, this year we see that, with the pandemic, that there's going to be even more circumstances where the foster care system can, bridge the gap. And in regard to say that if one of me and you got sick, I would hope that someone would be responsible while I'm in the hospital to find you and put my kids with you. So not so as a support. So I think that that's what we've been doing right now. That's been really positive. And I want to see more of that, us supporting families. We're here. I think there's a lot of relatives that we didn't explore before. There's a lot of fathers we didn't seek out before, that now we're exploring. And just my personal experience, in foster care, I feel like it was more so the substitute. I want to say that, if your parents weren't good enough or bad, and so we're going to give you a better situation. But we both know that, as emancipated foster youth, we never entered a better situation. We just grew up. So I think there's been a shift. We have an amazing director now, but maybe for the first time, we have someone who is very compassionate, very open. We have, groups who are very interested in, like with today 3FM, our faith-based initiative is about partnering with churches, making them stakeholders, making sure people understand that every church on the corner of this block, those are potential caregivers and foster parents. These are their children too, not just ours. And also looking at opening up like the LGBT community, making sure that they're having equal access to parent, making sure the kids that are growing up in foster care and have these circumstances and are identifying differently are getting services, not disproportionately. So right behind African Americans, we see others, people identify, especially part of the LGBT community, having disproportionate outcomes. Right. And this is the first time that it's been at the table where they're stakeholders, they're partners at the table, and they're saying, this is how we want to be treated. And even with us, I think with AB 12, when we were doing that advocacy, the goal was nothing about us without us anymore. Don't make decisions about what's best for us anymore without us. And we've seen that. You're on the commission now, so we know that your foot's on the back of some necks.
A lot of necks.
Change is here, right? So I think that the slogan is appropriate, and that is the shift. I think with the core practice model, the idea is the families are supposed to lead. They're supposed to be telling us what they need, and they fail themselves, not us telling them what they need and us failing them. And I think that that's what we're trying to do now with the core practice model. And I think that we've seen increased outcomes. We even have a whole, just to move forward after this, we have a whole task force that's dedicated to eliminating racial disproportionality. I go every month and sit and learn about how my bias, even as a Black woman, is affecting people that look like me. Things I believe about myself that I'm passing down to my clients. Things that I've internalized negatively about who they are, and what my privileges are, even in my skin, right? Because of my position of power. So I've seen a lot of change in the department. I think we're moving in the right direction. And before, I definitely wanted to light a match to the system. People know that. So,
and you bring up really valid points, because, even having been in the system for both of us over 15 years ago, you definitely see a dramatic change, because I didn't feel supported while in the system. I felt like, I was just a kid that no one knew what to do or how to do. And, my outcomes didn't matter at all. So you definitely see a shift in the system currently. And to your point, it has a lot to do with who are the stakeholders, who's sitting at these tables, who's leading these tables, and realizing that the real experts are the people that have, experienced the foster care, and making sure that any advocacy that's done is with us, leading with our allies, standing beside us for sure. Right. We have a lot of former foster youth and current foster youth, watching right now. And I think it's important that we leave them with a message, something for them, something to look forward to, because there's a lot of, misconceptions about foster youth. There's a lot of, people think that only, that we, are where we are because of certain circumstances and things. And I kind of want to dispel some of those myths and really tell, youth what it means to be a successful foster youth, or even leaving them with a message, something that they can take from this.
I want to say that for me, I think that there's no, exact recipe to how to create, successful adults. I think for you, Charity, a lot of it was internal. Like, you were going to make it no matter what you need to do. You're going to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you believe that you could create things for your future and for your life. I had to have it drilled into me. I didn't believe that I was worth anything. I had internalized unworthiness and being unlovable, not having mom and dad at the visits. A lot of Sundays only having you to pick me up for weekend passes. Not having anyone to show up or sign off for me to attend events or go on field trips in school. I internalized that I was not like other children, that I wasn't good enough. So even when the money came, we did IOP and they told us we could go to college and we had all this money and opportunity. It was like, but that's not for me. I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. That's for Charity. Charity gets straight A's, she's smart. People like her. I was angry, and you were kind of like kind to people, even when you were going through things, still helping people. So I think in addition to the fact that I had people come into my life and be kind to me and be patient with me, a lot of dollars were put behind me. Mm-hmm. So when I finally started trying to see if it was a possibility that I could go to college and create something, there was money backed at that time. It is financial, and some of it is, emotional, having that support. Like, my mentors that I had are still in my life now. They're still my family. I'm constantly building more people. And in my toolbox, in my toolkit, but I think that it's a lifelong journey that people expect us to get over after we get a degree or after we get a good job. And it's like, no, stuff still came up when mom passed. Stuff comes up every time I have a breakup. Stuff comes up every time I don't get the promotion I want. I go right back sometimes to being 16 again. So foster youth, they have to be very kind and patient with, forgiving themselves and allowing themselves to have their journey, their lifelong journey, but also making sure that they're forgiving others. My biggest thing, I think, today is that I forgave mom, and I forgave a lot of people from my heart because I had spent so much time thinking about her and thinking about other people that I wasn't invested in myself. I wasn't speaking life into myself. I was just dwelling on, oh, when she didn't show up, and oh, so-and-so didn't do this, and no one likes me. I had to forgive people for me without an apology. And then start encouraging myself and speaking life into myself, faking it till I make it. Jessica, you smart, without the grades.
Just to add to that, for the foster kids that are listening and former foster youth, you guys are our sisters and brothers, and we will always be there for you. And I want you to know, if no one's ever told you before, that, we are, the real superheroes of this world. And I think it's really important that that, because, we come from different circumstances, we have different barriers and a different set of, things we have to overcome. And our ability to be resilient through that is phenomenal. It's powerful. And when we succeed, despite all odds, we succeed in a totally different way. So I want to encourage just every, foster youth and former foster youth on here that you are worthy, for one. You will be successful and succeed in whatever, way you want to. There's no limit to what we can do. And when we put a limit on our success, when people tell us what we can and can't do, here's the thing. We literally can go about life. We can fail. We can become homeless, drug addicts, go to jail. And guess what? No one will question it. Okay? Because we're expected to fail. No one's going to look at Charity and say, well, we expected more of her. So now's the opportunity for us to say, hey, I am powerful. I am resilient. I am strong, and I can be whatever I want to be. When people tell you you can't, you use that as motivation and ammunition to prove them wrong. Oftentimes we think that we don't have to prove anything to anyone, but we do. We have to prove it to ourselves, and we have to prove it to the world, because if we don't, our other sister, foster sister and brother will go about thinking that, okay, well, if Charity didn't make it, if Jessica didn't make it, if this person didn't make it, then none of us are going to make it. And when we do make it, we have to be vulnerable and transparent and tell our stories, because that's how we're going to uplift each other. Sometimes we're all we got, but all you really need is yourself. And I went through a process where I literally looked myself in the mirror every day and told myself that I was worthy. Things I didn't believe at the moment, that I was beautiful, that I was smart, that I was strong. And one day I started to believe it all. And then once I started to believe all those things about myself, no one could tell me that I wasn't any of those things. So we go through a lot. We've experienced a lot of trauma. We've experienced a lot of hardship and pain, but I want you to use that as your weapon to go into the world and prove them wrong.